Good morning, CSL Reading, all our Facebook friends and those listening podcast and YouTube. We appreciate you sharing this time with us. We have Reverend Andy Torkelson giving our message today. We look forward to this. His topic to wrap up the end of this month is looking above. So we appreciate that, look forward to that, but to start us off, we have our Dalton. Go for it.
Good morning, everybody. This is a song by Gary Lynn Floyd. Storm cloud, come circle me again. Dark, steady rain on my horizon. I have weathered you before, I will weather you again. Stronger than ever, no, never alone. Stronger than ever, my look how I've grown. Lifted in every endeavor, stronger than ever. No teardrop, no howling wind could ever throw me off my journey. I will walk without a fear, past the wolf at my front door. Stronger than ever, no, never alone. Stronger than ever, I look how I've grown. Lifted in every endeavor. I look back on all I've done, everything I've lost or won. It all fades into the glory of my never-ending story. Stronger than ever, no, never alone. Stronger than ever, I love how I've grown. Lifted in every endeavor, stronger than ever. Stronger than ever.
I hear you all applauding at home, and what a perfect song for this time of the year, being stronger than ever. All that we're moving through, evolving from, and moving towards, we're becoming stronger spiritually and better stewards in so many ways of what is before us. So thank you for the choice of that song. I'm going to just share briefly, tomorrow night is the class starting with Dr. James Golden, Spiritual Sanity in a Crazy World. This is going to be a Zoom presentation starting at 6:30. You can sign up still with Lori in the office tomorrow by calling in, and then you can get the Zoom invite to join James on this journey for the next Mondays through February. And it's a beautiful format that he's presenting to us as only James can. He writes this: is it really possible to free ourselves from our fears, doubts, and suffering? Can we actually help others do the same? The answer, yes. But it is a journey of self-transformation that allows us to embody the truth that sets us free. He'll be using a lot of the work from Ram Dass from Grist from the Mill, and just bringing us together with great new insights. So we look forward to that starting tomorrow night at 6:30. And then later in the month, Valentine's Day, this is another opportunity. The board and the ministers and maybe a few of the practitioners will be able to be here in the parking lot to do one of those drive-throughs where you donate some food for a project that we have, and then also pet food for the homeless is still an ongoing event that we do for the community. And also we're looking for jewelry for an upcoming things that you might have been well-worn and loved by you, but ready to pass on for somebody else to enjoy, and that's going to be a marketplace fundraiser later on in this quarter. So at that time, at the drive-through, we're also going to tease you with some bake sale goodies from some of our best bakers in the community. Just a chance to come out and say hello and see one another in a very safe way. And that is Valentine's Day, February 14th. And later on in the month, the last Saturday of the month, Dr. Andrew and I are doing a workshop together, and it's via Zoom, and we'll be joining the Bellingham community, the Reading community, and just having a great exploration of the pilgrimage of the heart. So it's something to look forward to, as well as Greg Lavoie the Sunday prior to that. So we have a lot of different workshops this month and a lot of information to share with you that'll be for your greater good. So join us in that. So that's the invitations. I'm going to invite Dalton up to do the reading, and then we'll sound the bell, do a prayer to set our consciousness and settle in for a very powerful message from Reverend Andy.
Good morning. The reading this morning comes from Ernest Holmes. Before spirit can reveal its secrets, an outlet we are compelled to become must be created through our own receptivity. All wisdom that has come forth has been given to all of us through those who have penetrated the secrets of nature and the mind of spirit. We are surrounded by an intelligence that knows everything, a storehouse of the essence of beauty, truth, and wisdom coexisting in the universe, and we can all draw from it. Thus, a unity must be established and a conscious connection must be made before we can derive the benefits of spirit and its revelations.
That is so charming because you sound just like Ernest Holmes. That's pretty awesome. If you've ever heard any tapes of him, he has the same way of presenting. I love that. So, sorry, I'm going to invite the bell now. Whoop. As always, the sound of the beautiful bell takes us in, deeper into that altar of our heart where we sit with the divine, with ears that are open, willing to listen to a deeper truth, and allow our different veils that we have been accustomed to that sometimes shroud the truth. These veils lift effortlessly as we quicken with the awareness of a divine message moving through Reverend Andy and out into our understanding. So we give thanks for this day to look above, to look beyond, to see a greater way of being. So I give thanks for this day, this music, this inspirational message for Reverend Andy and who he is, and for all that we share in this time together. I release this prayer knowing that it is absolutely already so. With a smile in your heart, join us now in this message, and so it is. Reverend Andy, you're up. Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Judy.
So I take off the mask and I hope everything is where it belongs under there. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here today. I want to thank the Center administration for allowing me to speak. There's a concept within metaphysics that you find, and it's expressed in a lot of different ways. Ernest Holmes from Religious Science and Charles Fillmore from Unity both spoke about it pretty directly. And Ernest Holmes writes about this, and I want to give you my quote I have about this and then kind of talk about it a little bit. He says, "In the first day of personal attainment, all conscious beings became individuals and had to make further progress for themselves. From that day, there was no longer compulsory evolution. Life, with a small l, had to work in conscious union with life, with a capital L." So basically, what is he saying there? He's saying that he and other teachers of our movement, what they were saying was, because we in this movement believe in science and we believe in spirituality and we believe in the union between science and spirit. In fact, we believe that science is spirit and spirit is science, just as spirit is all there is. But basically, there's this idea, if you think about it, and we've all heard of the divine urge, okay? And in this teaching, we say the divine urge wells up within us to move forward and to express. In other words, there's no kind of arriving anywhere. That's why in our teaching, we don't necessarily think of a heaven in terms of a place we're going to go someday. You know, heaven is where we are in terms of what we create. So there is no place that we end up. What Holmes and Fillmore believe is that the divine urge is about this idea that we are always moving forward. And so if we look at the divine urge, it seems to me that Fillmore and Holmes, and this is my opinion, they kind of split the divine urge into two pieces of it. One of them was the primal divine urge, okay, which means, let's go back, if we go far enough back into the history of the universe and we have things like the cosmic explosion, the Big Bang, when all of life and consciousness came forward and everything got scattered across what we now call space. And there was this overriding intelligence. It's like, go forth and create, go forth and be, go forth and express. And that was driven by this intention of what we call spirit. And that was what we would call compulsory. In other words, it was just becoming life. It was on its way to consciousness. And then there comes a time, and we don't know where something else took over, where it became conscious evolution, which means engaged evolution. And the way I think about this, I was thinking about today, was I think about three stages of children. There is the newborn, there's the toddler, and then there's what I would call the maturing child. You know, I'm not going to break out a particular age for that. And so we have the newborn, and the newborn comes into the world, and if, you know, I think about my own children, and I think about babies I've been around. I mean, newborn, just barely here, just a few weeks, a few months old, and they're just kind of there, and they got their little outfit on, and they got their little fist clenched, and they're kind of looking around, and everyone's trying to get their attention, and we get all excited when they look at us, but basically we're told that they're just trying to focus, they're just trying to see things. Things grab their attention, and they're trying to see the world, and you know, they're sitting there in their bassinet, and all of a sudden the cat goes by and the tail is whipping around, and they just kind of grab it, and they have the tail and they shove it in their mouth, and we, oh no, don't do that, and we're trying to get the tail out, and the cat is about ready to come in and let them have it, and we're trying to hold them apart. And so the baby chokes on the fur, and we have to get the fur out of the baby's mouth, and we have to change the baby, and we have to burp the baby, and we have to rock the baby. And we think about that level of dependency. In fact, when a child comes into the world, we know that they're dependent upon their mother for their nutrition and for everything. There's that absolute complete dependency. Then we think of the toddler, and it's interesting it's interesting as adults, we think of the toddler, and so it's like we're trying to get them to talk, and we're listening to sounds, and we're saying, can you say, and there's this little kid thinking, what are you talking about, can I say, and they're just making noises. And it's interesting as adults, we will grab onto any kind of noise, and we say, oh, they just said their first word, and they didn't say their first word, they're just making noises, but we're excited about that. And so we are trying to coax the divine urge out of them. We're trying to coax their authenticity, their individuality to come forth. And we kind of welcome it. And then there's that time where, mom and dad or the adults are in the living room and someone is standing up the baby and trying to get them to walk. And we all hope that our cameras are there for that first step. And we'll tell, oh my God, she walked 2 steps today. I can't believe it. And we're so excited as this comes forward, as they move from being dependent into more of independence. And then one day the toddler comes. And this is when a little spark of light that I used to call the look of the devil, but I will call it the look of the divine urge, takes place. And for me, there's an event that took place in my life that whenever I think about this, I go right to it. When my kids were little, we went to we were going to an amusement park in the South Bay, and so we drove all the way down there, and we got a motel room somewhere, and we were going to sleep there and get up early the next morning and go. So we get there, it was probably late in the afternoon, it was summertime, it was really hot down around the San Jose area, and so there was a pool there, and the kids wanted to go swimming in the pool. And my son was this little kid, little skinny, scrawny, scruffy-haired kid. He had the divine urge in his eye. He had it there all the time. And he was a go-getter, man. And so they wanted to go swimming, so we head out there. We go into the gated area, and he made a beeline for the pool. And I go, oh my, I said, stop, don't jump in the pool. And this teenager in the deep end of the pool did a cannonball, and that got his attention. And I yelled my son's name. I said, don't go in the water. We hadn't done the swimming thing yet. And he turned around at me, and the divine urge was in his eye. It was kind of like, and I knew he was gone. And so I went after him, glasses, wallet, watch, shoes, shirt, and he jumped in that pool, and he sank like a rock. And I jumped in and I went down after him, and I'm down there and I got my eyes open. I grab a hold of him. He's got bubbles coming out of his mouth from the bottom. I take him to the top. I pull him up. And there was one moment of kind of terror in his eyes. Then he let out this shriek, and he had the biggest smile in the world, and he started to fight to get away from me. He wanted me to let him go. And he fought his way out of my wet hands, and then he sank, and I kept getting him, and it was the best time of his life. He loved it. And so I think about this in terms of this idea of how we look at evolution, when the conscious evolution begins. There's a writer by the name of Michael Garrett who is the voice of the Cherokee traditions here in the Native American communities of America. And the Cherokee kind of have their footprint in 2 places in America. There's a large Cherokee footprint in Oklahoma, and there's a large Cherokee footprint in the Smoky Mountains of western, like North and South Carolina, I believe. And that's where the tribe had traditionally been, in those mountains, those foothills of those beautiful hardwood forests mixed with pine and all those beautiful plants and animals back there. And then we know from history that the Trail of Tears, they were sent to the west, and they came into Oklahoma. And so they began to set up there, but there were some of them who migrated back to the Smoky Mountains, and some of them hid out away from the authorities and actually stayed there. And he talks about, in Michael Garrett's work, he grew up in the Smoky Mountains, and later on being part of the Cherokee Nation, it was about taking some of those teachings from the Smoky Mountains to those in Oklahoma who had to set up kind of a new way of life. So in the 70s, he was going to college. And he would come home during the summer, and there was a spiritual elder who told his father, I want to work with him. I see something in him. And I think he was, trying to go into business in college or something. He was taking business classes, and he was thinking about how can I make a good living and how can I bring enterprise back to my people and things like that, because there was a lot of poverty and whatnot. But this elder said, I want to take you into the forest. And so they went into the forest, and he resonated with this older gentleman. And he said, I grew up running around those forests in the Smoky Mountains, and the traditions of his people, having been in Indian schools, and the influence of Christianity and some of the poverty and some of the challenges, the spiritual ideas were not readily available at that time. And this elder who'd been with the tribe for a long time was just kind of like this old guy off in a cabin somewhere, and and the young people kind of weren't into him, and they wanted rock and roll and all that. And he was this guy. But when he came back from college and he actually spent time with this elder, he found himself drawn to him. And so the elder says, I want to take you into the forest, and I want to show you some things. I want to share some things with you. So he went out there, and he said, I want you to look at this plant over here. And I want you to tell me what you think it could offer you. And he said, what do you mean what it can offer me? What medicinal purposes? What is the healing power of this, whatever it is? And he says, well, I really don't know. And he says, I want you to open up to it. I want you to be in its presence. I want to see what you think. And Michael Garrett never quite got it. And after spending several weeks and the rest of the summer, and then it turned out all through college, he would come back and every summer spend time with this man. What he learned was that the Cherokee tribe, their ancestors from generations back, hundreds, thousands of years, had learned about the plants and the forests in which their people lived. And Michael Garrett was turned on to, with the tutelage of this elder, about all the medicinal and healing properties of dozens, if not hundreds, of plants, and the healing powers and how they could be used, not only in terms of medicine, but in terms of spiritual ceremony and all kinds of things. So he was always amazed at this. And he kept coming back to this one question. He said, how did our ancestors know about these plants? And the elder said, the plants communicated to our ancestors what their properties were. And so Michael Garrett said, well, so there was a language that was spoken. And the elder didn't squash that idea on the face of it. But what he said was, he said, I want you to take a look at a plant that I've shown you. And they went out and they picked, I don't know if it was a leaf or they got some of the bark or maybe they got some of the root. And he said, this plant will help with our liver, like I've taught you. Now I want you to look at this. It was a leaf, bark, or something. He said, is there anything in its consistency, the color of it, the smell of it, the shape of it, that would indicate that that's what it does? And Michael Garrett looked at it and he said, well, yeah, I mean, I can see here where, that kind of looks like a liver. And I can see that there is a red quality to it, and we know that the liver is so much involved with the blood. He said, that's amazing. And so Michael Garrett goes on to bring forward an idea within metaphysics that to me is mind-blowing. In the first day of personal attainment, all conscious beings. In the first day of personal attainment, all conscious beings came forward and began to move from compulsory evolution to conscious evolution. So, on what Michael Garrett calls the rainbow bridge that life began to traverse from the compulsory evolution to the conscious evolution, life was beginning to come across fauna, floral, human beings, whatever. And at different times. We know when we study evolution that not everything came over at once. We know that there are plants in this world that are many, many millennia older than we are in terms of being here. So Michael Garrett says, okay, when a guy like Ernest Holmes says, life with a small L had to work in conscious union with life with a capital L, this is what Michael Garrett says. A plant crosses the Rainbow Bridge. And I'll tell you why he calls it the Rainbow Bridge in a moment. It begins to consciously, it is a being. It begins to consciously evolve and morph and develop for a species which will show up hundreds or thousands of years later and develop a way to communicate the medicinal properties with that species. Oh my God. That blows my mind. So that when that species comes out into where the first species is living and is quiet and opens up and looks, let's call it for spirit, it is drawn. A smell, a shape, a texture, a color, whatever that is. To form a language between these two expressions of God. Now, Michael Garrett calls it the Rainbow Bridge because he says when he looks at a rainbow, he said, a rainbow is not a rainbow without all of its colors. And he says, much like the great web of life, which comes to us from our Native American brothers and sisters in a lot of traditions, is called the great web of life, all the pieces that make life one. He said, we find our way forward in evolution by partaking in all the strands of life. It's all there for us. And this is how it shows up. Lama Surya Das, who is a voice of Buddhism in the United States, tells a story, and this will take me back to the idea of evolution, newborn, toddler, and the maturing child. Surya Das said one day, one afternoon, late afternoon, he's in a coffee house somewhere in New York on a street corner, and all of a sudden he's in there, he was reading or something. All of a sudden a young couple burst in through the front door. Everybody looked. And they ran up to the counter and they said, oh my God, do you remember when we were here earlier? And of course the people working the counter hadn't been where. They go, no, we don't know what you're talking about. We were here this morning and we had our baby with us. We had our young child with us. And there is this stuffed plush purple cow that is just the very center of their life. They love this cow more than anything in the world. And when they take a bath, it's got to be sitting on the toilet so they can watch it. You know, he or she sleeps with it, they walk with it, they talk with it, it goes everywhere. And somehow we've lost it. We came in this morning, we got coffee, we've been running errands all day. We got back home. You know, the baby was in and out of sleep all day, and we were getting it around, and it had its stroller, and it had its bassinet, and it had its whatever. No, not a bassinet, you wouldn't do that. But anyway, those things you carry them in. And so somewhere along the line, we lost this, and Surya Das said they're telling this to people who don't really have, understand what's going on, but they've got the attention of everybody in the store, and people are starting to look around, and they're looking all over the place. They look in the lost and found. They look in the back room. They look under the magazines. They look everywhere. They can't find it because he said everybody's heart was drawn into the story. He said, we went home after running all our errands, and he was asleep, and we laid him down in bed, and we went to find the cow, and we couldn't find the cow. Oh my God, we got our neighbor to come babysit so we could go out and retrace our steps. And we're going to go everywhere we've gone to try and find the cow. And Lama Surya Das said, this is a story that touches all of our hearts. It's like our loved one, our child, someone we love dearly is facing a loss. It's facing, how are they going to go on? And the mother said, I can't believe it. What kind of a mother am I to lose this cow? And the father said, what kind of a father am I that when I realized how important it was to my child, I didn't go buy another one in case this happened. Oh, we're so delinquent. What's wrong with us? And he said after they were in a whirlwind in this place. They headed out and they were going to some shopping center and all this stuff. They were going to retrace their steps. Lama Surya Das asked the question, he says, what are they afraid of? And so he goes to the Buddhist story. A lot of us know the story of Siddhartha. And he was born to a king, and Siddhartha took on the title of prince upon his birth. And when he came into this world, his father looked at him and was so taken with his innocence and his beauty, he was overwhelmed with what he wanted to become. Right away, he went to his government and said, I want to build the biggest palace, most secure palace possible. I do not want this child to have anything to do with the world that may touch him in any kind of negative way. I do not want him to experience loss. I don't want him to experience fear. I don't want him to experience darkness. I want you to build this palace. And Lama Surya Das said, Siddhartha, when he began to grow up and become a mature young person, was drawn beyond his father's palace. And when he went out there, he found darkness. He found abandonment. He found darkness. He found all the things that his father was afraid of. And we all know, of course, in the end, what Siddhartha became as the Buddha. Surya Das says, what is it that we fear when we see a loved one go through what we perceive to be loss, or we see loss for ourselves? And it goes back to what Michael Garrett's work is about, is we fear that there is not enough God or Spirit for us. I can remember my children in terms of going out and playing soccer and not making the starting team, or their first girlfriend and boyfriend, and there was a breakup, and all of those things, or some teacher they didn't get along with, or some terrible grade. And I did some pretty embarrassing things to try and protect my children from what they were going through, not realizing that what my fear was, there wasn't going to be enough for them. That when they crossed the rainbow bridge, that Spirit would not be there. And what Ernest Holmes is telling us, what all of our wisdom teachers and writers and speakers are telling us, what the great revelations of this world are telling us, is that evolution requires that we step forward, not just to express a larger authenticity or a larger sense of who and what we are, but it's also our own realization that there will meet us there the healing power of evolution. That there is no place where God is not. And how God shows up for us, how Spirit shows up for us. Just like when I jumped in that pool, my son's sense of the divine was much greater than I had at that time. He simply knew, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to go to the other side. Ernest Holmes says, nature with a capital N, which means this is his way of expressing Spirit. Nature seems to await our comprehension of her, to gradually awaken and be set free. As we learn of her laws, thus automatically increasing the freedom that we seek. This idea of conscious evolution is not something that we traverse for the faint of heart. Michael Garrett says of his people, they went into the forest and opened up to receive her gifts of wisdom in order to stave off starving, death, catastrophe, dealing with the elements, dealing with other tribes, protecting their children. And the elder said, he was talking to a young man who was in college, and in college it's about going after things, being taught, having the counselor, being coached through, having tutors, listening to the lectures, taking the right classes, getting the right grades. And what the elder was trying to teach Michael Garrett, in which when he finally learned this lesson, he said it was the most powerful lesson of his life, was to be open and to expect to be met in that place. Today I'm supposed to be talking about looking above. And looking above is looking at that power that is greater than we are, that is there for us. The great web of life, the rainbow bridge, the wisdoms that come forward. I want to close by saying something really super quickly. In my work that I do around addiction, one of the things that I find the most challenging are the clients who have no hope, are hopeless completely. You can have a better life. You can get sober. You can get your child back. You can get a marriage. You can go forward. You can earn a living. You can wake up to days being great. No, Andy, not me. You don't understand that, not me. Yeah, it sounds good, and I think that that's there for other people, and I get it, but not for me. And I was thinking about this when I was preparing what I was going to talk about today, that this is the essence of hope. That there is a place in the forest for us. There is a discovery. There is a revelation. And I think about this right now in terms of this hopelessness. Let's put it on the table for a moment. Here in America, we're looking at, is this the end of democracy? What about social justice? What about health care? What about COVID? What about the stock market? What about the wage disparity? Oh my God, is everything going away? Everything's becoming untethered. And what our teaching says, the answers, the healings are there. They always are there. It's up to us to open up to, however it speaks to us. And the thing I love about Michael Garrett's work is, he said, grandfather, what's the language between our ancestors and the plants? He said, they found that way. They found a way to communicate that. They found a way to hear that. That's where we are today. The answer is here. We just have to open up to its unique language, its unique offering. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. It's been a real pleasure to be with you. So I'm going to end this with a closing, and she's all ready to go. All right. So, as we come together in consciousness, I am so grateful that Spirit shows up for us each and every day in a very special language that is there for us to listen to interpret, and to understand. Oh, I am just so grateful for the language of God, the language of Spirit, and the healing that is there for all of us. And today I set the intention that we have absolutely no reason but to hope, because our hopes are there for us to harvest and to bring into our hearts and our lives. And in my gratitude for this, I let my word go, knowing that it's so, and so it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Andy. I appreciate that message. I remember walking with my mother in Carson City across the terrain, and I saying, Mom, these plants that we're walking around have a message of healing for us, but we don't have an understanding to hear. And she goes, huh? What are you talking about? And it was just one of those moments of, I thought, well, As probably is a little bit woo-woo, but I appreciate hearing it in that way of wisdom that, that you brought forth today. So thank you. Lots to absorb there. This is the time we just express our gratitude to all of you for being here and continuing to support our center. Now more than ever, we value the gifts of your prosperity flowing in this direction, and we take good care of that to support the center through these times. So remember, with each offering, that sense of gratefully I give with the attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. It is a law, it is a principle that never fails you. So we all are in this together, and we support one another in all the ways we can. So gratitude from my heart to yours. And right now, we're going to close our service with a closing song from our Dalton.
Wherever you are right now, there's a high probability that you know this song. So if you could go ahead and stand up and stretch your legs out, stretch your arms out, stretch whatever you gotta stretch. Sing along with me now. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. All love now, all love, holy, holy. All love, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is love, holy, holy. Oh God now, oh God, holy, holy. Oh God, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is God, holy, holy. That's why all is one now, all one, holy, holy. All one, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is one, holy, holy. All good, one more time now. All good, holy, holy. All good, holy, holy. All in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy. I said, all in my mind, in my heart, in my soul. Let me know all is good, holy, holy.
Thank you. I can just see you all at home standing up and dancing around in your jammies on that. So thank you. I love that song, and may it continue to sing through you this week. Let it be your anchor. Let it be your truth. Let it be your way. So have a beautiful week, and we'll see you next Sunday. Thank you for being here today.